Welcome to Soltron. This is a video review for the Glory Alliance Magician. Here's how he scales with some other figures. You can see he's definitely leader class size. And here's his instructions, nothing special, it's just black and white print. And here's the 360 view of this guy. I really love this aesthetic. I like that there's actually not much paint on him. The color separation is all just different parts of plastic. There is like a little bit of paint in the wings, and that's about it. They really went very sparing with the paint, but he looks really good. I think if it wasn't for his head, this guy would be a 10, like just an awesome looking robot, but his head is, of course, looks like all the other heads in the series, so that kind of knocks him down to a 9 in my opinion. And here we go, here's a close-up view of his head, and even more than the other figures, he's definitely got like a frog head or a toad. It just looks like kind of a toad just kind of like rolled up into a ball, and he's got like these hip joints under his chin that just look terrible. Could have easily fixed this by putting a collar in the chest section here. It's just unfortunate they didn't do that. Yeah, the head just doesn't work, and it really doesn't really match the aesthetic. Like he's very geometric and angular, and then you've got this very mushy, kind of awkward looking head. Just does not fit his overall look with how sharp and linear he is. He does have a couple of accessories. He's just got these arm cannons, which just peg on to the underside of his forearms. And that's basically entirely all he comes with. And then you can actually leave these in place for transformation, so that's kind of nice. As far as articulation goes, he does have head swivel. So he's got a decent amount of head articulation. And then he's got 360 on the shoulders. Of course, the wings are going to get in the way. The wings can also fold back more, so they can fold all the way back. And then you can also go ahead and unfold them and give him a different look. So that's kind of cool too, is that he's got a couple of options as far as his silhouette, and you can rotate these down and around. I don't know if that's going to make a better looking look for him. Let's try it out. Then you got kind of give him just like a standard wing pack. That looks kind of cool too. So he looks pretty good. But yeah, you're going to need to like fold the wings out of the way for him to get all the articulation here. He's got outward clicking joints here, and then the top of his shoulder opens up so you can get even more outward click. So a good outward click there. So very nice. And then he does have a soft bicep swivel and then soft ratchets in the elbow, and you do get, there is like a second joint in the bicep, but it does almost nothing. So you're only going to get about a little bit more than 90 degrees. And then he does have ball jointed wrists, so you can get all that articulation. And he does have opening fingers as well. And then he does not, oh, actually, I take that back. He does have a waist swivel, but there's no ratchets in this one. They just didn't have room because the nose cone folds into his chest here, so there's just no place to put the ratcheting joint, really. There's just not a lot of space. And then you get those typical universal joints in the hips, so you get a nice click out and in, forward and back all the way, and then you get a click in the thigh swivel too, so his legs are very well built. And then you get double jointed knees, which gives you more than 90, and then you get a nice little exposed joint there, so the sculpt doesn't break. And then you get ball joint ankles, so you can get a good amount of articulation. His heels are kind of messed up. When you saw him spinning around, you probably saw that he's really just on the balls of his feet. His heels are not really touching the ground because they just don't, the heels just don't line up with the soles of his feet. You could try, but the click is just not quite in the right place, unfortunately. So he does have pretty useless heels. You can kind of balance him on his heels, but then his toes won't be on the ground. So you have to choose. You can either have him on his feet or you can have him on his heels. So that's a small design flaw. It's not that big a deal. But yeah, you can get, he's got all the modern transformer posing, so you can of course get really good poses out of this guy without any problem. So he's very dynamic, and you can get some really good flight poses. So one oddity of this figure is he does have these clips on his back, and I don't know what these are for. It doesn't say in the instructions, and he's got this weird joint too, and this also doesn't connect to anything. So it's really bizarre. I can't figure out what these do. They're just not in the instructions. I think it's for a vehicle to sit on top of him when he's in jet mode, but it's not in the directions at all, so I have no idea. But they don't seem to serve any purpose in robot mode. They can't connect to each other. They can't connect to anything. Yeah, there's no way to transform this so they connect to each other. I don't know. And this definitely looks like it'd be a good shield, but it's all screwed into place. It's got, you can kind of see right there, it's got screws, so you really can't take this off at all. There's no way of detaching it. So that's too bad. Could have made a real good shield weapon, but he doesn't really have a sword, so I guess that's kind of pointless. So yeah, transformation is very simple. You're just going to pop off his head, and then while we're on the head, you can see he's missing a little bit of silver paint down there in the chin, but you do get a little bit of paint on the head. And I think more paint would have just made the head sculpt a little bit more less mushy. You could see the details a little bit better, and then you have to pull out this little top thing, which is very difficult because this guy's so small. And of course the core robot looks very cool, and then you're just going to plug this into his back for storage. And then he's got a lot of articulation. He's got bicep swivel, he's got elbows, he's got ball jointed shoulders, he's got universal hips, and then he's got knee joints. But of course he's got like no screws holding him together. It's all just glued together. So it's kind of like a little model kind of feel to him. But anyway, we get back to his core robot. We already kind of did some of the work by straightening out his wings. So you can see that's going to all end up there. This will be the top of the jet. So he's already like transformed a lot. And then the legs are like the easiest part of the transformation. So I'll just go ahead and start with the arms. Do this kind of annoying thing where you have to unclip them from the chest joint here. And then you have to open up this vent and then kind of situate that forward. And then you're going to use this little slot right there is supposed to tab into this right here on the wing. And then there's another little slot right here on the forearm, and that wants to tab in right here on this tab. So you're just going to rotate the arm around, get this all into position, and then click it into the right place. And then I usually just focus on this tab right here. All right, looks like I'm not going to be able to get that right now. I'll just go ahead and get the arms ready. And then you're going to push out this whole chest section from the back. And you can see it's really hollow back here. And then you're going to fold out the nose cone, and you got the landing gear there. And then I'm not sure if this is necessary part of the transformation, but you can flip the waist skirt around and point it upwards. And then with all this out of the way, you can just go ahead and telescope the legs in. So these just slide right into place, and then they're going to sandwich together, of course. And then you can see you got the thrusters on the heels, so you're just going to point the toes. And then you get these tail fins, and you're just going to fold them into place. And then this like back hip skirt shield has like two little tabs that will tab into the back of the calves here. So now that's pegged into place. And then the top of the jet will be this shield, and that has these two holes go into the posts for robot mode. For jet mode, they kind of retract here, and you're going to have these two tabs instead go into these slots. And there you have basically the jet mode. I'm going to have to peg in the arms off camera, but you can see how it looks. Okay, and here he is in jet mode. And you can see the arms just kind of destroy like his wing functionality. And then he's got this big hollow gap in his chest, and that's a good place where you could just basically throw in the headmaster and he can just hang out in there. And he's got landing gear here, but there's no landing gear in the knees where there typically would be. So you kind of just drag it along this translucent plastic. Yeah, and then the robot doesn't officially go in here, which is why he just falls out, but you can kind of friction him in place so he doesn't fall out as easily. But there you go, you get a pretty good looking jet mode, and then you can see the robot is definitely too big. He's way out of scale. There's no way that he could fit in this cockpit, unfortunately. And then you got these tabs here again, which are just mystery. So you get like this little 2-piece tab and this one and these 2 clips, which again don't seem to serve any purpose, but you get a pretty good looking jet mode. I would say this jet mode is like an 8. It feels really solid. It looks really good, but the back end here is just too long. If you compare this to Starscream, you can see Starscream just has a much cleaner, like his wings are pretty close to the tail fins, and this guy doesn't even have 2 sets of tail fins. He's only got the 1 set that are diagonal to kind of compensate. So it's not a very aerodynamic looking jet. You can see this just looks like 2 robot legs that are sandwiched together and telescoped, whereas Starscream's legs like fold up in a much more convincing way. So that's why I would give him a little bit of a knock, even though I really like the futuristic jet mode. So yeah, that's it for the Glory Alliance Magician. The quality is pretty good on this guy. I would say definitely an 8. I'm not really worried about things breaking, except for maybe these wings. If I dropped him, these would be a little bit brittle, or these tail fins, but I could say that probably about Starscream too. The plastic's a little bit more flexible in these kinds of toys. But yeah, so hopefully you can find yourself one of these sets. I'll probably be selling this guy, so you can check out my eBay link until he shows up, and I'll see you in the next one.